Even though we're at the peak of summer while I'm recording this video, fall and winter are coming. In today's video, we're taking a look at some brands and style-based bolos that will make you thousands of dollars heading into these next two seasons. Hey everybody, my name is Bethany and I, along with my husband Sean, run Trash Pandas Thrift. We are a six-figure reselling business, and here on this YouTube channel, we share with you all of our tips, tricks, and of course, our experiences that we've had along the way, also that you can grow and start your very own reselling business too. And this is going to be a very Trash Pandas Thrift-esque bolo video. I always like to say that we don't just thrift based on brand, style, material. There isn't just one thing that makes something a bolo in our eyes for our business. It's a combination of things. We do style-based sourcing, we source based on something called sell-through rate, and we source based on great brands and materials, not just one idea of what is a bolo brand. So today I'm going to break down some brands for you, some styles for you, and some materials that are all a bolo that you should know and definitely be looking for going into fall and winter. This is not your average bolo list video. The first one is going to be a good one. If you are like me and maybe you're watching this, you sell mostly women's clothing. Looking into this first bolo, this was everything to me. Sourcing fall and winter, men's workwear as streetwear is a huge style-based bolo and a brand that is absolutely so hot and only continuing to increase in demand is Carhartt. Now, Carhartt, you see it everywhere. Like, people love to wear it. You're going out thrifting, you see guys wearing it. Even women, they love to wear it. Maybe in street style videos, New York City walking videos, you see people wearing Carhartt, not just as workwear, but as street fashion too, especially skater fashion. That's a really great keyword and a style that I think is really great intertwined with it. And it goes back to what we've been saying, we've been talking about on this channel, and that is vintage is on trend, especially vintage workwear. Now, there are certain styles in Carhartt, for example, jackets and pants styles that are going to go for more money. But in general, if I find a Carhartt pair of pants, a Carhartt jacket, I'm always going to take a second look at it to see if it's substantial and see if the style is potentially worth a ton of money. One style in the vintage jackets are in a special bolo to look out for are vintage Detroit jackets. Now, I'm sure Sean is going to put a little picture of what those look like. I have never found a Detroit jacket. I have found other styles of vintage Carhartt jackets, but this is one I am looking for like a hawk. They definitely are one of the most valuable jackets that you can find. I'm not saying that everything in Carhartt sells and it all sells for $100, but especially if you're only selling women's fashion or you don't really look at men's fashion as much, I'm telling you, I'm hitting myself for like not looking at this sooner and thinking about you really should be paying attention to a lot of these styles, vintage workwear styles, with Carhartt being the leader, like the star of the show. Oftentimes, things will have a style number, especially with pants. Look it up. Even modern can sell for $30 to $50 in pants with their work in progress line. Recently, I found a Carhartt Vicious pant is a style number, I think. And honestly, it was a great sale. I think we sold it to a wholesaler and they sold it for about $50. It was a really good sale. It's not just vintage, but vintage inspired stuff as well as certain vintage bolos. So like I said before, they're going to go for the most amount of money. Now, the next bolo I want to talk about is a brand bolo, but it's also an entire category. Wool X is the next bolo we're going to be talking about. At the time I'm recording it, it is July 20th. It has a 164% sell-through rate for the entire brand. And it is not a well-known brand. It is based in New York. It is a merino wool performance clothing brand. They're made with Australian wool. They claim that it is as soft as cashmere, and honestly, I found it a few times. It is pretty darn soft. It is not one of the more popular merino wool performance brands. I think of, as soon as I'm talking about merino wool, Smart Wool, of course, comes to mind. Another really great one is Ibex, but there are more than just Smart Wool and Ibex, and I find myself often relying on material-based sourcing when it comes to merino wool. Merino wool performance clothing, base layers, but also pants and vests and jackets, performance and tech clothing is a huge category too. WoolX is awesome. I went on their website and I was doing a little bit about them, and apparently they make 100% merino wool fabric that can be machine washed and dried without shrinkage or damage. And honestly, when I'm sourcing, I'm finding a lot of merino wool stuff that is just damaged beyond repair. All of the stuff I have found from WoolX, even if it's been pre-owned and secondhand, and there are small flaws or marks, I've never found one with holes. So I do have to say they're definitely hitting the mark with that. And again, merino wool base layers are awesome in general for fall. This is not just a brand specific thing with WoolX. I think WoolX is an awesome brand to be on the lookout for because honestly, it's not as well known, I feel like, in the reselling community. In general, this as a category is definitely something I look for. I pick up things that are merino wool, especially when it looks like a tech or performance clothing. I'm looking up the brand if I don't know it, and I'm taking it with me anyway. It definitely deserves a second look as a category, and WoolX is definitely a brand to be aware of if you aren't already. They have a cute little sheep logo. Usually it'll say, like, in a shirt, for example, the back of the neck will have like a little sheep on it, and it'll say WoolX. Sometimes it will be a little faded and you might only see the sheep. So it's really good to know that it is just a sheep as their logo. Now, the last bolo I'm going to talk about today is a style-based bolo. This has been one of my favorite style-based, honestly, bread and butter, like rinse and repeat styles that we just churn year after year. It is grandpa sweaters. Grandpa core is an amazing style aesthetic, and I'm sure we're going to do an entire video just on grandpa core style aesthetic as a keyword alone. But grandpa sweaters is like subcategory of that I absolutely love. Now, for me, bread and butter grandpa sweaters are going to be a little bit different than your average bolo grandpa sweater. As a type of like category, I like to think of it as grandpa sweaters can either go for a lot of money because they could be amazing brands, right? Like let's say you have a Kuji sweater, 3D knit, like beautiful Kuji sweater. That is an obvious bolo sweater. However, you can actually make your own bolos in your own store by going after a style like grandpa sweaters that can take a regular sweater. My favorite example is Jeffrey Bean. I find vintage Jeffrey Bean sweaters at almost every single Goodwill outlet I've ever been to. I'm thinking like a very oversized, maybe like a darker color, geometric, retro pattern. It could be checkered, maybe plaid or paisley. I feel like you know what I'm talking about. Maybe you have like a cool uncle and he wears like cool like sweaters to dinner, something like that. That is exactly what I'm talking about. That has been a bolo style-based bolo for years for us. I use the term grandpa, oversized, and you couple that with the actual style of it. That very grungy 90s inspired oversized look is super on trend. It's something that honestly we've been sourcing for the last 2 or 3 years. I'm only seeing it increasing in popularity, and I'm starting to source it even right now. Now, certain things are going to add value to your sweaters. If they're vintage, that adds value. Again, vintage is back. Vintage is on trend. The more unique your item, the more you're going to sell it for. So if you have like a rainbow colored wild sweater and maybe it has skulls all over it too at the same time, yeah, you'd probably price it up a little bit more. But my vintage Jeffrey Bean sweater, I would sell rinse and repeat for $30, $35, $40, even upwards of that if it's a super cool pattern. This is an awesome example of things that you might be coming across that you might not even know are worth a lot of money because you can give it value. This is one of my favorite fall and winter styles. I hope this is kind of like a good indicator of that fall and winter is definitely a great time that you have freedom in sourcing, right? Materials are super important, and so is style too. So same thing with materials in the last bolo. If you have great materials in sweaters, that also adds value. All of these features coupled together is what kind of creates that bolo, not just the brand. So if something is, for example, 100% wool versus 100% polyester, you're adding value to your sweater. If something is, for example, made in Ireland, that could even add value as well. It is all kind of like a freedom-based category in the best type of way. It's a mix and match and figure out what works best for you. In my opinion, like the best grandpa sweaters that we source are going to be that very grungy, 90s inspired aesthetic. So that's personally what I gravitate towards too. But if I found a sweater that was rainbow and 3D knit and super wacky, I'm definitely getting that too, and I'm still gonna call that a grandpa sweater too. There's a lot of freedom in this category. Okay, those were our 3 bolos of the day. We did Carhartt, especially vintage Carhartt, Wool X, merino wool base layers, and grandpa sweaters. 3 of my absolute favorites. I'm going to be sourcing them as we go into fall, and I'm not going to be stopping until, honestly, some of these I source all year round, but definitely a good idea to keep your eye on it now. Now is the best time to start sourcing for fall and for winter, especially for thrift stores who are just starting to put out sweaters and jackets. Most people aren't hitting it up as hard yet, so you're probably going to find things that you may not find as competition increases as we head more into fall and winter. Same thing at the Goodwill outlet. I'm constantly picking up stuff because it's so hot while I'm recording this, but the sweaters and the jackets, and there are some really, really great fall and winter items that are being passed up right now. It's a perfect time to start. Okay, thank you so much, you guys. If you like this kind of content, make sure to subscribe down below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.